Hello, everyone. I'm back. My name is Brianna Clyburn. If you haven't known me before or just your first time looking at any of my videos, I am the founder and owner of my hair business, Naturally Gifted Breeze Hair Care. What I'm basically doing is keeping everyone posted and updated about my product formulation that'll be coming out soon. In addition to what's been happening and what process I'm in, and how I can get those products and ideas out and marketable to you guys. So today I am on a different scenery. I'm not in my car like I usually am, where I attend school for my natural hair licensure. I'm home today. I will have to go to school later, but I want to do my video earlier today just to kind of go ahead and get it done. Yesterday didn't quite work out that way because class extended, and that's okay, that's fine, but we're back on. So today's live video is a little different because I wanted to take this time this week to really reflect on what has been going on, what has been happening, and to kind of keep my journey or my vision in perspective. So as I started out before with the very first video I ever posted, I was talking about my testimony and why I am here and what God has gotten me here. I talked about how I went through my temporary disability and how the phases of life that I had went through, different things that it took out of me, and exactly why I transitioned over into doing just hair. Um, I wanted to take a minute and just to elaborate exactly, why or where I'm at, and what is the whole purpose of basically why I'm creating this video. My vision and my perception of my life from childhood up until middle school, up until high school, once you ask a child who they want to be when they grow up, and they give you all these marvelous answers and awesome professions, and we just we ask our child, what are you going to be when you grow up? And most of them, they'll say doctor, they'll say lawyer, they'll say, some say preacher. But you rarely get the blue collar jobs out of these children. You rarely get, and you definitely don't get, I want to stay in a, small house, or they always dream big. And from that, my dream for my life when I was growing up was always, I wanted to grow up, I wanted to be a pediatrician. I always wanted to care for children, being that doctor's profession. And it wasn't until, I graduated, went to college, was actually pursuing in my career field, not my career field, but my major. My major at the time was biology and chemistry, double major. And I got into the courses and I realized, my God, this is a lot, this might not be my field. I changed to a pre-med major. Pre-med was just as difficult as, for me, it was just as difficult as biology and chemistry. And so, and in light of everything, at the time I was with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and things happened, and I had ended up expecting my freshman year of college. I had no intentions, I had no ideas that or what was going to happen with my life at that point, because a lot of things happen in your mind, or how I'm going to care for this child, but at the same time, am I going to have to quit school? Am I going to have to stop dreaming? Because priorities change, responsibilities change. And because of, thinking of all that, I really reduced myself down to feeling as if maybe I may be a statistic. And I thank God for support. I thank God for people, pushing me. Definitely having a lot of, um, a lot of push to let me know, this is not your end. This is just a new beginning. Yes, things may shift and change now because, your priorities will change, but this doesn't stop you from going. And so it was in those moments where I found, life has its curves and life has its ups and downs and life has its, you know, twists and turns and roller coasters, but it's your perception behind it, is what you do with it that's going to matter, and that's what's going to make a difference. I could easily gave up. I could have easily been like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to rely and depend on this and that, rather than keep pursuing after my dreams and pursuing after a career that I wanted for myself. And because of that, and because I didn't stop, I didn't quit, and others pushed me to keep going. I graduated. I graduated college, with a bachelor's of science degree. No, not bachelor's of science, bachelor's of liberal arts degree. Because I did complete with the adult degree program, bachelor's of liberal arts degree, bachelor's of liberal studies, a BLS, sorry, a BLS degree in human services. So I found something that was compatible for me, something that I could enjoy doing because I loved working with people. And so I had found my career not too far after I graduated school. That don't happen every day. Once you graduate school, and anybody out there who's been to school know that it can be the hardest, next difficult thing is to find a career job in what you went to school for. I found my job, just happened to look on, it was not ZipRecruiter, it was oh god, it drew blank, but a traditional website, found my job, and I was working in my career field. Eventually, between all this time, I had got married. Me and my husband, we moved into our home apartment. It's our home. But we moved, we got ourselves together. Our career paths, we were on the run, and I was finally making an income that I could support me. My husband at the time, he was making good money. We had a double income household, and it was nothing for us to just, just go up and let's just go out. Let's just do it. What we would like to do, we did a lot of things that we enjoyed doing. And so my career changed once I had expected my second child. My little baby Jeremiah, who's now 2. Jeremiah, once he was born, I had, took temporary leave off from work. And in the process, before I took, no, not temporary leave, I quit work because it was just too much. If you ever been in a social worker field, being a social worker and trying to, raise a child in a family, you have to balance work and home life. And that can be very difficult because a lot of things demand from you from your job that you don't want to take priority over your home life, of course. So I had to make a choice, and I had a decision, what's most important to me. And so I thought, but I knew home come first. And so I went home. I I went home, and I was like, my boss at the time, she was like, do you know anyone who will fill this position, that's moldable, that will be good, as good as you are, if not better. And I was like, I don't know. And I forgot at the time that my husband was also finishing his school. Both of us was at Wingate University. He was finishing with his bachelor's degree in human services as well. And he only had a month left of school. And I was telling her about, my husband, his work ethic and different different qualities and attributes that he carried and how I would feel if he would fit this job. Vouch for him. He had an interview. Soon as he graduated school, he had a job. And so I trained my husband. We worked together. It was very funny. We worked together in the same position, but for a temporary moment. But I trained my husband for the job. He got it. We took off. Our income even increased there. But of course, we received a deficit, of course, because I wasn't working. Once I had Jeremiah, I stayed home for like a few months, but enough to where I felt comfortable enough that he may be okay in a daycare setting, and that I felt that he was ready. And at the time, I was nursing, so I wanted to be prepared, and store what I have to store before we actually transition to, my work back into work life. There was a position that came open at my husband's job, and I received this position. It was a double, two positions basically in one. And I felt every more bit of comfortable doing the position. I felt qualified for the position. I knew I was qualified for the position. I felt that I would be a great candidate for the position because, one, I was familiar with the staff there and I was familiar with the people there. So I didn't think that the transition would be hard, per se. Once I got into this position, I realized that there were a lot of things that were unfinished, and it required more and demanded more from me. And not only that, we're new, we're learning. I and other staff there, this position, and they helped and supported me in every way that they could. I didn't know that this position would require me to actually work even harder than almost a social worker would have to, because the demands that that the company was requesting for, the time that it takes was not just your regular 9-to-5 job. This was a 24-hour service, because I was a scheduler, I was a central supply. So at any time if supplies go out, or if any time we're understaffed, you have to call in people, and you have to work with people, and you have to work with personalities to make sure that this building is covered. I think that was the hardest job I've ever done in my life. And I remember many nights, being up, sometimes getting phone calls at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 12 o'clock. Any time of the night, I would get a phone call. I was getting improper rest. I wasn't eating right, because, I wanted this to work. I wanted this to be affluent. I wanted to fulfill the position. And I knew that I had the capabilities of doing it. But in long term or short, just to come to short terms, what ended up happening is that the job actually ran me into the hospital. And so that's where, my disability, temporary disability, had occurred, and where it stemmed mostly from. And, I'm not going to go back into, what physically happened, because I explained that in the first video. But yeah, stress will kill you. Stress will kill you. Balance will kill you. Not having proper balance, that will kill you. And not only that, not taking time for yourself, not thinking rationally, not eating properly, not taking care of you will definitely leave room for a lot of things to happen to your body, to where you just run down and you can't no longer give out anymore. And so before I come to that state, even with my hair product formulations, I have found that I have to find balance. Sometimes this right here just alone can become overwhelming because, mind you, at the beginning, I was a mom, first. I'm a wife first. I take care of my home first. Hair product formulations, that's second. Or, so I had gotten to a point, just, last week where I was like, I couldn't even tell you. Sometimes I couldn't recognize myself when I'm getting burnt out, but everybody else around you and your family that know you, they like, it's time to step back. It's time to draw back. And so what I come on here is to just tell you all and to encourage someone out there who may be getting a head start on life or trying to start something new or do something differently. Go for it. Don't procrastinate. Don't think about, the deficits of what you're going into. Have that in mind. But mostly at the forefront, be proactive in what you're doing. But at the same time, have balance. Be proactive, but have balance. I am a living witness that if you don't have balance, if you don't be proactive, if you don't analyze what is healthy and appropriate at the time, you can literally kill yourself slowly. So stress is one of those things, one of those major contributing factors for a lot of turmoil in people's life. Not knowing how to communicate is another. Not having the financial resources is another. But stress, and other things too can contribute to all of your not having peace of mind. So I come today to just reflect on, where I come from. God has been great and he's been good, and I will dare not give him glory for what he has done for me in my life. And at the same time, I can't do anything but contribute everything that I do to him, because he's the one who gave me a second chance at life. And I know that with the ideas that he has given me, he's going to make way. Sometimes you can get caught up in, who's watching, who's listening, who's interested in all of that. And at the end of the day, if it's not but one, hey, the mission is accomplished. And what God has for me, I know it is for me. So I can't worry about the rest. Sometimes you try to work sometime to prove yourself to people. I'm done with that. You don't have to prove yourself to no one. Know who you are. That's all the more reason why I talk about have purpose. Know your purpose. Find your purpose in life. Because once you know your purpose, can't nobody deter you. Not only that, can't nobody alter, can't nobody change what has been founded, a foundation. Foundation is concrete. It's the only way it can be removed is if it's uprooted. Hey, baby. Say hey. Hey. But, I just want to encourage someone out there to just, keep pursuing, keep going. Don't give up. And I saw a young lady who posted, and she asked the question, but it was one of the things that I was like, okay, yeah, it's true. I go through it as well. And the question was, not question. Yeah, it was a question or a statement that was posted. It was, is it ever too late to start over? And the question is never. Never too late to start over. God gives us He renews our mercies every day. Renewed grace every day. Every day is a fresh start. Every time you wake up in the morning, that's another chance to say or do something different. another chance to thank God, another chance to start new. You know, a lot of times we look at our history or we look at our past and we think that nothing can become of our future. And that's just a delusion to keep us bound and keep us stuck where we are. You can start new every day. There's so much work to be done. There's so much options to be had. There's much to do. And your ideas that you have are valuable. Someone needs it. And people actually look for the next thing. And not only that, they look for also the next thing. They look for you to be that light someday. You know, sometimes people don't have hope, and just seeing your smile gives them hope. Just hearing your voice gives them hope. And so don't become complacent, don't become stagnant. Keep moving, keep going. I think I'm rambling at this point. Take time for your family, take time for yourself, because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of nobody else. Take care of yourself. If you got to run yourself a bath, run yourself a bath. If you got to, sit down in a quiet room for a moment, sit down in a quiet room for a moment and just think about nothing. Write stuff down if you have to. Do something that, read the Word of God. Definitely read the Word of God, because it'll bring back balance to you. And you're going to be all right. You're going to be okay. Trust the process. It's never too late to start over. And sometimes the race isn't given to the swift nor the strong, but the one who endures to the end. Just because just because you're fast-paced, just because you know the language, you might get there. But my race, slowly but surely, slow and steady, it wins the race. Sometimes in small baby steps, that's when God can work great miracles. So just do it and encourage someone else. Don't hold it for yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I talk and why I say what I say, because it's no good to some people hold and greedy and don't want to give, and you can't get back what you don't give out. So you don't sow anything, you can't reap anything. That's what I mean. Yeah. What are you sowing? Sow into someone else. Encourage someone else. And it'll come to pass. Things will come to pass. What is it, baby? But I did want to follow up with the question of the post that I did post. I did post a post. Good. Last week. Excuse me. And the post was to a question, what is the condition of your hair? Why is your hair, what do you classify your hair's condition as? Some of the options that I put was healthy or normal, dry, damaged, weak and brittle, dull, or limp. And so I wanted to discuss that for a brief moment. And I basically reiterate some of the concepts that I have talked about before. But a lot of you ladies, when you responded, you were talking about how your hair was dry and brittle, damaged, weak, or limp, volumeless. And I want to talk about some of the contributing factors or reasons for why this may be possible and why your hair may not be thriving the way it should. I talked about in the past the phases of our hair, below the scalp and above the scalp. And we talked about how below the scalp is where there's life, there's germinated cells, there's production that's happening, there's blood nourishment that's being supplied to the follicles underneath or embedded underneath the epidermic layer. So there's life under there. But above the scalp, that's where our hair becomes keratinized protein, which is literally dead cells that grow on top of one another, connected by various bonds, peptide bonds, polypeptide chains, microfibrils, and other biochemical factors. But this is what builds, it's the genetic buildup and makeup of our extended hair that leaves our scalp. So once that hair extends and leaves your scalp, or it's no longer underneath your epidermic layer, your follicle is attached under there and it's supplying nutrients to the follicle. But after that, of course, that hair we call dead keratinized protein again. In order to, you have something that your body produces, which is the sebum glands or sebaceous glands. And the sebum is what is responsible for providing that luster, shine, and nourishment to your hair. It's just like an extended flow of what's going on underneath. For anyone who has tightly coiled hair or hair that is coarse or kinky, it's harder to distribute that sebum throughout the strands because it has to get around the coils to get to where it needs. And so you actually be responsible for manipulating that sebum to your hair, or use other you will be responsible for using that. Try to manipulate that sebum by detangling, by equally distributed manipulation to get that flow to the ends of those strands, because it can't reach some of those places. But that's all the more reason. And kinky hair, coily hair, and top and hair that is coarse suffers the most from dryness and brittleness, and it requires moisture to replenish and bring it back to quote unquote life. Dry hair, kinky coily hair tends to be brittle and dry, but thrives when it's wet or moist. And so that is why you require more maintenance whenever you're going through and between your styles. So for someone who has dry and brittle hair, damaged hair, dry, brittle, weak hair, those hair types need more moisture. And so you want to pay attention to how you are moisturizing, how you are also cleansing, how you are maintaining your hair. Because sometimes our manipulation in the way we treat our hair can cause damage as well. If you're going through and you're combing and you're brushing, but you're not taking your time to brush from the ends of your hair up to the root, most likely you're causing mechanical damage. If you're using chemically processed products on your hair, perms, relaxers, sometimes keratin treatments, because it can over excess those bonds of your hair, definitely it's going to cause breakage, damage, and it's going to disrupt the normal pH of your scalp. Color, if you get color, rinses maybe, but mostly like your permanents, semi-permanents, demi-permanents, you can disrupt that natural moisture pH of your hair. So that's where those damages may come from. If you don't have a regimen, nope. If you're going to put it in your mouth, you can't have it. Excuse me. But if you don't have a regimen, you can also be at a potential risk for any of these factors, because a regimen, you are literally training your hair for a purpose. So if you don't have that hair trained, your hair can be unruly and unmanageable. And so you have to put your hair on a good strict regimen to keep that hair flowing normal and healthy. As far as someone with damaged hair, again, that goes to, exactly to also how much tension are you putting on your hair. Definitely going into the moisture, but are you getting frequent trims? Are you putting any color, putting any chemical treatments that's disrupting that hair? That's going to contribute to all of that. I do have some external stressors and some internal stressors that I've written down that can contribute to any of thing outside of healthy hair. So if any of these factors apply to you, I want you to think about or write down how any of these may be possibly one of your factors. And so I'm just going to go through the list, and you can definitely, pinpoint or think about any of these factors. And I can expound on those if y'all would like. You can comment and let me know. But some of the internal stressors that can be contributing to abnormal hair growth is heredity or genetics. That your family has a history of having anything going on in their hair to where there have be a candidate for dry, brittle, damaged, weak, limp hair. Aging, more particularly in older ages, your hair could change, just as in puberty or teen ages, your hair could change. Drastic or sudden weight loss, stress, emotional health could cause your hair to change. Poor diet and nutrition, because having a lack of the necessary nutrients that you need to feed your follicles underneath. Okay, you can't actually get that nourishment and flow to your hair as you should. Your hair requires specific amounts of nutrients, believe it or not, to keep that hair flowing. And if you don't have that, or if you're not eating properly, or your diet is erred, you can see that. So for example, because I know you're probably like, well, what is that? Let me look here. I have wrote down some things that your body needs. This is called, basically, I like to call it hair food. I tell you it's hair food. But your body needs these essential nutrients in order to, some of them, to thrive. Some of them are iron, antioxidants, water, vitamins, dietary supplements, B complex vitamins, biotin, silica, some sulfur such as MSM, which you can intake, zinc, omega-3, omega-6, and vitamins A, C, D, and E. And so I talked about B, which is the B complex. You need that whole one to really properly nourish and treat your hair. Okay, so aside from diet and nutrition, hormonal changes or imbalances, such as if a woman is going in her particularly 40s to 50s age range, you might have to go through a menopause period or era. This could contribute to hair changes because your hormones have changed, and that's a whole nother thing. Pregnancy. I don't know if you ever heard of postpartum hair loss. I had it after I had my third baby, which is Josiah. I had it, and that's not fun, but you can have shifts in your hormones that can cause your hair to, when you're pregnant, thrive and grow, and you get all these pretty baby hair and vellus hair, and it's just beautiful. But then after that baby leave, those hormones change back again, and that hair is gone. Sometimes that can happen up to a year after birth, so keep that in mind. Hormonal changes can cause hair loss. Stop. There's any medications or your drugs any medication or drugs or prescriptions that you receive, those can have drastic side effects that can cause hair loss. Surgery, sometimes anesthesias that you receive can cause hair loss. Endocrine or thyroid disorders or glandular problems definitely can cause hair loss or contribute to hair damage. Autoimmune diseases and cancers. Jeremiah, you ready to go to sleep? All right. Autoimmune diseases and cancers can cause hair loss, especially if you're going through treatments. Poor circulation and metabolism, lack of water, because our body is made up of composed of 70% water, and 70% of that water is going to your head. not 70% of the water in your body contributes to hair health. So if you're not drinking properly or rehydrating, imagine your hair can get dehydrated. True thing. Biochemical scalp changes, gender, age. We talked about age, gender. So, for example, if you're a male, you're more likely prone to something called male pattern baldness. Women, it's called female pattern baldness. But more men are more likely to lose their hair faster and more drastically than a woman would, but it can occur in either sex. Anemia contributes to hair loss, especially because you're not getting that proper oxygen flow to the blood, which actually the blood that you receive in your body definitely travels to those hair follicles to promote growth. So if you have anemia, that's another. Scalp, poor circulation is another. But hair disorders, I can go on a whole list of internal health disorders, but mostly if you have something called alopecia, it's the most common ones. There's different variants of alopecia. People don't know. There's like alopecia totalis, alopecia universalis, alopecia areata, plus more. But these, or diffuse alopecia, but these alopecias actually is when your body literally attacks itself or attacks the cells in your hair and can actually eat away at the follicles and kill them one by one. So those are some types of hair disorders that can contribute to hair damage and hair loss. Pityriasis, steroids, dandruff. So this is more of a coarser dandruff or waxy, yellow, slime-like dandruff that can develop on the scalp. Definitely can contribute to hair loss and hair damage because there's not proper circulation happening to that hair. Seborrheic dermatitis, which more is of your eczema. You can have eczema or psoriasis on your scalp. And I talked about alopecia. So those are internal stressors or internal factors that can contribute to damaged hair. But here are some externals, and I'm going to go through this faster because I've been prolonging this video a long time. Stress again. External stress can, believe it or not, we have external stress that can factor into hair loss. Surgery, external surgery. So if literally somebody actually, if you're, for example, going to get a brain surgery or anything, they constantly shaving that spot or have shaved that spot. There's no hair there, of course. So, yeah, it can disrupt those follicles. Transference or cross-contamination. If you're using the same combs and brushes with cousins and mama and sisters, and yeah, you can transfer things that can actually cause your hair to fall out or become damaged. Chemical hair treatments. I talked about that. Thermal heat applications. How much heat are you putting on your hair and how often are you putting heat on your hair? That's blow dryer, that's flat irons, those thermal rollers. Oh, no. Not writing in my book. All that can contribute to hair loss and damage. Tension. Are you pulling or putting weight, more weight than necessary on your hair, or is somebody else doing it and it causes you to actually lose your hair? We call this traction alopecia, where literally your hair follicles are pulled from the root. Those little bumps that form, that means that the follicle has become infected with pustules and it literally detaches from the scalp. And we call this slow waxing. So what happens every time you get your hair pulled or braided or however way you're styled, and that's being pulled and those bumps and stuff are forming, or you just see those, it's just strings that's tight around there, redness, that is a signifier that it is too tight. You're literally slow waxing your hair right out to where the follicle is detached and it will not grow again. So, tension. Infrequent or lack of proper cleansing. How often are you cleaning your scalp can determine if you're going to have conducive hair growth or not. Topical treatments that you're receiving from a dermatologist or so, there are side effects that could possibly cause lack of flow. Jeremiah, you want to go to bed? You gotta get down, son. Leave my computer alone. This one. That's my baby. Having allergic reactions to certain products or hair fibers can cause hair loss or damage. Believe it or not, some of the weaves that you get or some of the extensions that you may receive, they are processed, chemically processed. They say human hair or synthetic fibers, blends, that hair needs to be cleansed most likely before you put it in your hair. And you can basically do this with a baking soda or shampoo or apple cider vinegar ACV rinse before you actually put that product on your hair, because there's allergies that you can react to it. And products too, because if you don't sometimes when you get a product or a new product, you don't look at technically the ingredients always, and so some of them can be made in a tree nut factory or mixed with ingredients that have soy or almond or peanuts. It's a lot of citrics people are allergic to. So all of that plays a factor.
Mom, what's that?
That's the lawnmower outside. If you have increased bacteria or fungi on the scalp, definitely a conducive ground for hair loss. Poor scalp circulation, such as if you're constantly wearing hair or weaves that cover your hair and scalp always, and you're not letting your hair breathe in between, getting that proper air or light to it, you just basically creating a breeding ground under there for things to happen. And so, especially for someone who gets sew-ins or wear wigs all the time, you're going to have to maintain or get you some time in between those to give your scalp a break so that it can get that nourishment it needs. If not, contribute to hair loss and damage. High water pH. Certain waters, if you haven't tested your water with like litmus paper or pH strips, they're very acidic, and so all those minerals and stuff can create imbalance to your hair. Normal hair functions or ranges at a pH of 3.5 to 5.5, and so your normal pH of water is usually 7. So sometimes you can buy a pH buffer or a pH cap, or they have these filters that you can buy at Lowe's or Walmart or online. Amazon, I know, have them, but those create a pH buffer for your water so that it won't be so high and too acidic for your hair. Your products could have a high pH. People don't really test the pH of their products, but I tested mine recently because it was a class assignment, and I was surprised, very surprised. Mine was low pH, which is great, but you don't want it to go too low because it can become, let's say, acidic. But if you go too high, it can become alkalinic. So don't go too high. pH of 14 is the highest you can go. So maintain a range of 7 is the normal. But pH of hair 3.5 to 5.5 is where your hair is happiest. Physical inactivity. You're not moving or exercising can cause some external stressors. But if you're not physically actively manipulating that hair like it should be, or if you're putting that hair one-sided always, if you like that same part in the same area all the time, what happens is that hair literally separates there or become short there or defined there, and so when you try to retrain that hair, it's just one-sided, and where that hair lays is where it's going to fall and can contribute to, definitely, that poor manipulation can contribute to hair loss and damage. Or sometimes if you over manipulate, if you're overdoing it, if you're over pulling, you over excessively combing and brushing and not detangling properly, hair loss and damage. Chemical exposure. Some people work in certain jobs. Some people work around certain chemicals. That can definitely contribute to external hair loss. Too much hair, too little follicles. Meaning somebody literally takes a whole bunch of hair and put it on these little section of hair, and that's just excessive. Goes back to tension. So don't do that. If you keep your styles in too long, it's something that happens called erosion, where the fibers of the hair or that's on that protector style can literally rub against your grain of hair and erode away. So you don't want that happening. Do stick to the recommended time that it takes to do your styles. Sometimes we like to hold on to a budget. Sometimes we like to hold on to a look. But make sure if you're trying to hold on to something that you're maintaining that hair underneath properly before you just letting it go. Because that's a disaster, a potential for disaster. If you're one-sided styling, again, if you're always styling the same style, not manipulating that hair loss and damage. Pustules and infections. So if you have a bump on your scalp, for example, if you've been a mosquito bit you in your head, or different things happen to where we have little bumps or so, or things that pop up, and there's infection and stuff there, that is a breeding, or there's an open cut there, that is a breeding ground for infection. So definitely make sure that you're taking and doing the proper precautions before it comes another thing. Hair accessories and tools that you use can cause damage and hair loss. So those cotton elastic ponytail holders or bands can rub against your hair. Some scrunchies can rub against your hair. That can be a ground of potential for hair loss, especially if you're keeping your hair in a ponytail all the time, using that same that same cotton ponytail holder or sponge rollers. Sponge rollers, believe it or not, cause hair damage. And a lot of people are like, what? How? A lot of people are going with the plastic or flexi rods, for example, or the plastic perm rods, because they don't actually snap the hair. Sponge rollers, actually, the fibers squeeze. There's small holes that we can't usually see with the normal eye. There's small holes in the sponges that can trap the hair once it's round or wound around it. And so if you're constantly doing that, most times once the fiber or the hair traps into one of the holes, you untwisting it, guess what? You're pulling that hair. We're untwisting it too. And so slow waxing again after time or over time, grandma hair might be full, but when she start getting older, age contributes to it too, but you starting to see her hair thin faster. Because it's just stuck in the same style all the time, or it's stuck. Her hair is being trapped around the rollers, and a lot of times, more times than none, once you pull that or take them rollers out, there's hair still wrapped around it, and that's what happened. You literally pull that hair around that sponge. Hair disorders that are external, such as Tinea capitis, such as ringworms, vegetable parasites. There are things that can live and breed on your hair. Lice is one. These things can contribute to hair loss and damage around the areas. Infrequent trims, we talked about that, lack of a regimen and training, and I think the last one is folliculitis keloidalis, which is keloids, or they call them razor bumps. But it is basically, you sleepy, razor bumps, which If they're the tools that your barber or you're not cleaning those tools properly, you actually breed infection, and or your hair can get trapped underneath, and it can cause excessive tissue growth around the area. And yeah, it ain't cool. It's not cool. So all of that and the area around that is lost basically, and you have to either get that surgically removed, but that's basically the only option for that, unless you do some small. There's men mostly have these treatments where you can apply certain creams and stuff on them to prevent those ingrowns or infections from going any further. So do look into that. But all of these things that I have mentioned can contribute to the very thing that I was talking about, which is dry hair, damaged hair, brittle hair. You know, take note of some of these things, write it down if you think that you're a factor, and do something differently about it. All of these things are preventative. Most of these things are preventative, and can be changed or altered with just a few simple lifestyle changes. So, yeah, you can do it. Normal hair, dry hair is possible. It is not out of the bizarre range. And worst case scenario, if your hair is not thriving where you want it to be, there are drastic options that you can take. Some people opt for minoxidil if you're a woman, which is a medicational treatment that you take, or finasteride for men, which is a hair treatment medication that you can take. Both of these actually supposed to stir up those follicles and get your hair to grow in the way it's supposed to be. But the only thing about those medications is that once you start taking them, you cannot stop, because the same hair that you grew when you were taking it, if you stop taking it, it will grow right, it will fall right back out. So those are lifelong treatments. And for more drastic, more measures, if you just know, stop that boy. If you just know, okay, yeah, nothing is working, then talking with your dermatologist and talking with the hair surgeon, you can actually go and get hair surgery to have hair transplants. And I've seen the process through some videos. It's not a beautiful one, but once it ends, you know, you have your hair. So, and that depends on the person and depends on, you know, what's happening underneath it. Technically, if you have any scarring or anything like that, it might be more impossible. Harder, not impossible, but yeah, consider that. But if you got the money to do that, again, that's another thing, because financials, you got to make reason for that. You got to make way for that. But I'm not going to prolong this video anymore. I hope you all have a blessed day today. Again, live life with purpose. Don't be out here just living because you have a reason to be here. God has placed you here on this earth for a reason. Find out what it is. And if you haven't already, do follow my Facebook page, which is Naturally Gifted Bree. And follow my Instagram, which I have just newly created. Instagram is at Naturally Gifted Hands. So that is all. No, hold on. Sorry, I said it backwards. Facebook page, Naturally Gifted Hands, at Naturally Gifted Hands. Instagram at Naturally Gifted Bree. There we go. We got it. I love you all. Y'all have a blessed day today. Bye-bye.